see we have a new optimal Optimus to deal with, and carrying Prime Spark as well. The universe cowered once at the name of Megatron, and it shall do so again!
Freedom is the right of all sentient beings, Megatron.
Then they'd better stay out of my way!
Too much energy.
Maximize!
Alert. Quantum surge detected. Vector 597.
No, not that! Ah!
Happy Earth Day, Maximals! Welcome to episode 36 of Too Much Energon, the Lasercomb podcast where we talk about Beast Wars shit and talk shit about Beast Wars. I'm one of your hosts, Christopher Siege.
And I'm your other host, NeoCal.
What's going on this week, Cal?
Donating stuff to Value Village.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, they make it really easy. You literally pull up beside the building in a designated, parking zone. And there are, bins, right there. You don't even need to walk, 3 feet. So you can just cut and run. Shut up and take my junk.
Dump your shit and go.
Yeah.
Donate anything really cool?
I donated the board game Sorry.
Sorry. How very Canadian of you.
Yeah. Gave it away and I said sorry, eh? What else? Oh, we were going to donate Pokemon Monopoly. But I PM'd a friend that I thought would want it. In particular, one person. And she said yes. So I made a detour and gave them Pokemon Monopoly.
Man, there's a monopoly for everything.
That's not a good thing. It's the worst board game in existence.
I mean, I'm a fan of Monopoly. I enjoy it, but
Explain to me how Monopoly brings joy. Is it the heavily modified house rules that you inevitably have to play with? Or is it because everybody else gets more frustrated faster than you do and they throw the game?
I actually enjoy bartering, so that might have something to do with it.
It throws the game off when you have at least one. Hell, if you have more than one, it's even worse. Person who refuses to barter. The problem with Monopoly is everybody thinks they know how to play, but they actually have always played with house rules.
Right.
They don't realize how the auction system works.
Yeah, because it's the actual rules of Monopoly. If you land on a space on the board and you don't want to buy it, it has to be auctioned.
Yeah,
that's in the rules. Most people don't know that.
I met 2 human beings that even knew that rule.
I've known that rule since I was a kid from playing video game versions of Monopoly.
Where you have to play by the
where you
right
have
rules.
To play by the correct
Same
rules.
actually. Yeah. It was a Super Nintendo or a Sega Genesis version, and we played 4 players.
Yeah
and the whole free parking thing. No, you don't pool your community chest taxes and stuff underneath the free parking and give that away. Fuck off.
Yeah, all of your fines
that prolongs
and shit
the game.
like that. Yeah. In modern video game versions of Monopoly, that's a rule that you can turn on.
You can tweak house rules in modern digital board games.
Yeah. Which is kind of cool. I currently have in my possession and I bought it because it kind of went viral a couple of years ago, but it's the Monopoly Millennial Edition.
Go on.
And
Does it have like a young what's the old guy called again? Pennybags, Pennyworth or something
Moneybags?
like
I don't
that.
know.
JP Moneybags or something something like that. Does it have like a young version of
Alfred
him?
Pennyworth.
Does it have a young version of him, like even eating avocado toast and
No, I'm
texting?
pretty sure avocado toast does get mentioned in it though. And it's
Of
like
course.
you don't actually like spend money. Like
You
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 spend
spend
you
your
spend
debt.
no you spend I think you spend like social media followers is the currency in that game, in that version of the game. And
I would play that just
like the and
to
like
see it
this
rip on millennials.
and like the slogan for the game was like for something, I think it was something along the lines of like, forget investing, you can't afford to anyway. It
So
even says that like right on the box. And like I remember Hasbro like got in like so much shit a few years ago when this game came out.
yeah,
And
because that's too on the nose, man.
yeah, and I read that and I'm like, "Oh my god, I need to acquire one of these."
That's pretty funny.
And so I got it, and to this day I've never played it because I don't know anyone who will actually play Monopoly with me.
I play it with people if they don't insist on house rules. If we give ourselves a time limit, right?
Right.
Like a per turn time limit, like no continuously trying to negotiate. Like your turn is 60 seconds, bro. If you can't make a deal in 60 seconds, it's the next person's turn. And everybody goes into it with good faith.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's nightmarish. Like my secret like objective whenever I'm forced to play Monopoly is see how fast I can eliminate myself, just so I can stop playing Monopoly. And then I go off
Wow.
somewhere else and like play video games or something, and I look over like an hour and a half later, and everyone else is like miserable still playing, while like the wealthiest person is slowly just chipping away at everyone else, and I'm like, hey, you guys having fun? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, oh man, it feels it's so bad that I can't keep playing Monopoly.
You look over and like the other two, like the two players that are losing now have like 5 o'clock shadows, and like one of them has like a lit cigarette and they have like coffee cups in it.
His tie is like loosened. And
Yeah. Uh, that's
it's the same reason the same reason I won't play Monopoly unless people go into it with good faith and you're like, okay, well, let's try to make it go quickly. Let's try to do favorable deals, yada yada yada, right? Um,
yeah.
it's like, oh, what the fuck was I gonna say? Sorry, I just had an ADHD moment. I had something funnier to talk about, and it's like a dandelion in like the wind. It's fucking gone. Weird.
It's like a sprite in that game Flower for PS3. Just drifts away.
Yeah,
Uh,
like tears and rain.
like tears in rain. I went into a toy store today, a local toy store. I'm not going to say the name on air, but I went in there and like while I was like perusing their wares, so to speak, I'd finally like settled on something that I actually wanted to buy, which shockingly wasn't a Transformer, because that's like all I've been buying lately is fucking Transformers. It's like I host a podcast dedicated to Transformers or something.
Me too. You can see you can see my Transformer collection right here.
Oh yeah, what does that creature turn into?
Well, when the plant that I put into its back doesn't die, it transforms into a plant holder.
That's I appreciate your enthusiasm there that the plant is going to survive, to sprout out and grow and live and breathe,
Yeah.
be free, and go live on a
As-
farm and run and play with all the other plants.
Well, yeah, it's fine. He's just on a farm somewhere.
But yeah, so I went into a toy store, and this is a store that specializes in used toys. So there was someone in there who was trying to hawk
Ew.
a bunch of his
used
old
toys.
who. Yes, just you need to make sure that you sterilize them thoroughly.
Oh, I'm sure
Soak them in
everybody does.
soak them in alcohol, and then boil them. And then, for good measure, wrap them in a condom anyway.
And then when all the lead paint wears off because they were made in the 80s and they're just gray, then you bring them in. So sorry, what this guy was trying to
see, you're not far off though, because like this guy had brought in a bunch of toys, and he was like trying to get like $50 cash for it, for like an entire table full of like just random shit. And listening to the people who worked there, like the way that they talked to this dude was kind of hilarious, because they talked to him very much in a way of like, we are fed up with your shit, please stop coming in here and trying to get us to buy your goddamn junk.
Like, this is a guy that's come in like
Yeah.
15 times in the last month. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just random shit that he's bought from like a garage. Like he
Yeah,
peruses garage sales every weekend.
Yeah, and they were bitching about how like dusty and dirty like the stuff that he always brings in is, and they're like,
Was this guy tall and he had white hair?
he was tall, yes.
Because I have a buddy who's like, this is a small town, so it might be him. I have a buddy who like loves the hustle and bustle of going to flea markets and going to yard sales, right? Finding things like semi-rare things or things that he could resell. For example, magic cards or a whole bunch of like Transformers toys, and then he goes or jewelry, and then he goes to pawn shops, or he goes to gold places, or he goes to Cherry Bomb, or he goes to what's the place next to the comic book shop, the one with the cards, you know what I'm talking
Legends?
about, or Yellow
Yellow Jacket.
Yeah, he'll go there, and he actually he has this like agreement with the guy that works there, and he gives him a fair price. He's like, oh, okay, I could sell these for this much, so I'll give them this much for you, right? Everybody makes money in that game, and he loves that. He lives for it. Once the summer hits, he does that as often as he can. So I'm wondering if this is him.
Well, I will say, like, buying and reselling shit, like, it's fun. I enjoy doing it myself. But
maybe I haven't gotten into the game yet.
But yeah, just the way that they were talking to this dude was like kind of hilarious. Like they were so like they were kind of aggro toward him. Like they were just like so fed up with this dude. And like at one point, like the one of the like the owner was like said, I'm paraphrasing, but he said something along the lines of like I don't even want to deal with this shit, but like I'll give you like $20 for all of this stuff just so you'll leave.
See, the problem is when you start telling people that, is now they know they can come back being annoying shitlord and walk away with something.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I know.
As someone who has worked with in the hospitality industry for quite some time, I can tell you, you do not give anyone even an inch, because they will attempt to take a mile every time.
You do not give them even an inch, because they will attempt to transform that into a mile, if you will.
They really do.
They will attempt to maximize their profits.
Their profits.
No, what I did end up getting at this this local toy store today, though, was I ended up getting a 1999 McFarlane Toys Metal Gear Solid 1 Meryl Silverberg figure.
In like the army fatigues.
Yeah. This isn't going to be.
I don't think she wears anything else in that game.
Well, when you first. Well, not when you first meet. Well, when you first meet her, she's in a like tank top and panties.
In the bathroom.
Yeah.
Right.
Or in the prison cell.
Right. Haven't played that game in a long time.
But yeah, for people watching this on YouTube, on video, this is the figure right here.
That's not bad, actually.
It's actually kind of a sexy Meryl, gotta say. But yeah, it came with all the accessories. I actually have another figure from this line. I have the McFarlane Toys Metal Gear Solid 1, like Wave 1, Liquid Snake from that era, which I actually bought in 1999. And I still have it after all these years. Complete, too. Like, it's not in the box anymore, but I have all the accessories. I've managed to keep it all together and keep the figure in pretty mint condition for the past, like, 2+ decades.
Huh.
Yeah.
Let me think for.
This is like the most like direct, like the most like direct way we've talked about Metal Gear on the show.
It definitely is. Like, actually talking about it. I had like a comic from a long time ago, or like a you know what I mean? Like came with like a special edition, or I can't remember. I don't have it anymore. I don't think I really have anything related to Metal Gear anymore.
That's unfortunate.
I
have quite a few things.
Not
Not as many as I would like, but yes. You know what I do like, though? Talking about Beast Wars.
Really?
Yeah. I know, it's mind-boggling, isn't it?
It is.
I
thought we were just going to talk about Metal Gear Solid.
After 35 episodes of this podcast of talking about Beast Wars, like, I mean, what more is there to say?
Nothing.
Well,
it's honestly, I'm not the person to do it. Well, it's not like I knew anything about Beast Wars, but you could probably like do a very thorough, like, the history and madness of Hideo Kojima and Metal Gear Solid, and turn that into like a 10-hour, like 5-episode podcast.
Oh, absolutely. I could definitely podcast about Metal Gear on a extensive basis. So, listeners, keep an eye out for that sometime. Maybe. Who knows? Anyway, this week on Too Much Energon, we are discussing the first episode of the 3rd season of Beast Wars, Optimal Situation. But before we get into that, here's a little bit of audio about our brand spanking new Patreon.
Do you want to hear more Lasercomb content each week? Is one episode of Too Much Energon or Alphanumeric just not enough? Then subscribe to the Lasercomb Patreon, where starting at a mere $5 Canadian per month, you get exclusive bonus recordings of Christopher Siege, NeoCal, and AP Sniddler shooting the shit, access to the Lasercomb Discord, monthly shoutouts, and more. Higher tiers include bonus video content, the ability to pitch future podcast content to us, a free t-shirt, and more. Support Too Much Energon and Alphanumeric by joining the Lasercomb Patreon today.
So, Optimal Situation originally aired on October 25th, 1998 in the US. It is the 40th episode of Beast Wars overall. So the episode picks up
We're on
immediately.
episode 40.
Yeah. Episode 36 of this podcast. Episode 40 of Beast Wars in total.
Mother of God.
I know. Who could believe it? So the
Such a
episode...
thing even possible.
It is through the power of time travel, which is what our heroes and villains have done. The episode picks up immediately after where the agenda part 3 left off, with our heroes being destroyed like time itself in some sort of like time vortex thing as a result of Megatron blowing up the head of G1 Optimus Prime. And Megatron's like all gloating and being all like, yes, haha. And Black Arachne is like, no, fuck you. I'm a maximal protoform. I'm not going to die for your insane ambitions. So she betrays him by
She activates Teletron, right?
Yeah, she turns Teletran 1 back on and reactivates the defenses. And there's a brief little exchange between her and Silverbolt where Silverbolt is still trying to be the White Knight and protect her. And she's like, dude, you have no idea like what you're talking about in this situation. Like, hang back.
Or she's like, that's literally what she calls him, Bowser Boy again.
Yeah.
And she's like, okay, shut up and follow me.
Yeah. So they go into the Autobot Ark and over to the dying body of Optimus Prime and activate some kind of life support system, which funny enough like comes down from the ceiling, and it's like this device that just plugs into the Autobot symbol of
like
Optimus Prime's
charger.
arm. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Yeah, it's like a fucking charging device.
It's the Autobot symbol, and it like in like a crystal, and it looks like he's pumping gas almost. And he just, like, plugs it into Optimus's chest, and I'm like, oh, so it's like the thing, like a oxygen mask that falls from the ceiling of a plane.
Oh, I didn't even think of that. Yeah, that's a good point.
I guess because it's right above him. And for some reason, when Silverbolt plugs that in, the storm like dissipates.
Yeah. Emergency life support. So they're staving off the time paradox.
But they kind of like turn into static and flutter in and out. So time hasn't been the timeline hasn't been changed completely because he's not technically dead, but they're fading in and out, like Back to the Future.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking too. So it's like they've managed to like keep him alive temporarily, which got rid of the time storm or whatever it is, but he's still dying. So like time's kind of all like maybe it could go either way. Like you're still kind of fading out, which is kind of ludicrous if you think about it. But
I'm glad that that you had a problem with that too. It's the whole like when fucking Marty pulls out his photograph and like he starts fading from it, or his siblings, or like whatever, and I'm like, wouldn't the photograph itself be fading instead of you from it? Because why would people take a picture of nobody?
Yeah.
right?
I've never thought of that before, but that is a fantastic point.
The picture would be fading in his hand, not him. But it serves as a. I brought that up to my mom when I was a teenager once, and she was like, "You think you're pretty smart? You think you're pretty smart, huh?" And I was like, "Yeah." But it serves as a visual cue that like he's
You
fucking
think
up
you're
the
pretty
timeline.
smart. Oh, you think you're pretty smart, Trebek.
But you know, it's kind of hard to look at Optimus Prime here.
His face is fucked.
Looks like his face got shotgunned.
Yeah. That was one hell of a facial that he took from Megatron.
Yeah, Primal flies in with Rhinox on his board, and he takes one look at him, and he's like, "Well, that's just Prime," and I'm like, "It is."
Yeah, that is just Prime right there. Or what's left of him, which is what Rat Trap says.
Line. I love that line. Yeah.
Or what's left of him.
Well, what's left of him anyway? And I'm like, wow. That's the biggest like shut up Rat Trap moment of the show, I think.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
I like it. That's like one of his best zingers, but it's the biggest shut up Rat Trap moment of the show.
yeah. Too soon, man. Too soon.
Yeah. He's not even dead. So-
Yeah, he's not even dead. He's not even cold.
No.
He's not even out of Energon. Which on that note, I have something to point out later, like toward the end of this episode, as it pertains to being out of Energon or Energon levels. We'll talk about it when we get there.
Okay. I'll remind you. Now you'll probably remember.
So yeah, Rhinox initiates repair sequences. Or he's going to, but he says like Optimus Prime, like even though Black Arachnia like put Optimus Prime on life support,
It's basically he needs surgery, but the surgery will kill him.
Yeah, because Rhinox mentions that his spark is already in the process of joining the Matrix, so he's fading fast, and
So they need to move his spark so they can repair his body.
yeah, and the process of like actually working on his body would be like too traumatizing or something, I guess, so that his spark will just fade away completely. And Optimus Primal is like, then we'll have to move it.
But it can't exist outside of a body.
I know. And he like points to his like solar plexus.
The way you said "I know" was like, "I know, bruh." Hang 10 while I hit these sick waves.
Well, I mean, he is on a fucking surfboard. Like,
Exactly.
am I wrong?
No.
No, I'm not.
And he's like, "Shaka, bro, it's time to go hit these crazy Matrix waves."
It's time to get it's time to get this prime energy, man.
Yeah, it is prime energy. So we actually get a really cool sequence of Primal opening himself up. You get to see all the gooey parts of him and his spark and everything.
Yeah.
And Optimus Prime, he opens up his like chest plate, and we get to see the Matrix of Leadership.
Yeah.
And it's like little, I half expected like doon 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 doon, you got the touch to start playing.
They it wasn't in the budget for this episode, clearly.
God no. It even falls to the ground, almost like an homage to the Transformers movie. But
that bit in Transformers the movie where like Prime takes the Matrix out of his chest and like goes and like No, he goes to hand it to Ultra Magnus, and then Optimus is
Right.
just like, ugh.
And
in this like comical
falls to
moment,
the ground.
he just like, like his hand just like, bleh. Just like lets it go, just drops and lets it go.
Ultra
And
Magnus like tries to reach for it, but
Hot Rod is all
Rod
like, I
catches
got this, and then holds it up, and then we see this blue, like,
sparkly energy.
it's like, wow, that's some pretty on the nose foreshadowing right there.
So in the part where they remove that, and Optimus Primal takes the spark into himself, but the like holding device falls to the ground. I expected Cheetor to like run and slide and catch it in his hand, even though it didn't have the spark in it. I don't know why. I feel like Cheetor is this show's Hot Rod.
And then he himself just starts singing as he catches it. You got the touch, Big Bot. You got the power.
Yeah. In my head, that's what happened.
Yeah, that's
But no,
exactly what
just-
happened.
It just clambers to the because there's even a little part as it's slow motion falling. The camera cuts to Cheetor and his eyes go wide, like this is a bad thing.
Yeah.
So that's why I expected Cheetor to catch it, but no, it just falls on the ground and like breaks in two, but it doesn't matter because the spark isn't in it.
Well, and this is the like. So we're seeing here that when a transformer joins with the Matrix and like becomes like the like they inherit the Autobot matrix of leadership, they like their spark bonds with it. So like Prime Spark is part of the Matrix here.
Yeah, it's not a separate thing from his own spark.
Yeah.
The matrix of leadership is part of his spark, yeah.
Yeah.
Which means if you do give it up, you die?
I guess, yeah.
I mean, in the 1986 Transformers movie, he's dying, so he gives it up. But you can't just willingly pass it along to somebody you think is more worthy.
Yeah.
Can you? No, you would die.
Well, in the G1 cartoon, after Optimus Prime came back to life, eventually, Hot Rod gave the Matrix back to Prime. Or, not Hot Rod, Rodimus. He gave it back to Prime, and then the next episode, all of a sudden, he was just Hot Rod again with no explanation.
Really? He
Yeah.
didn't stay like Rodimus?
No. Which I found strange. And I only just watched that episode for the first time, like maybe a month or two ago, and I'm like, wait, what? I do not I do not
feel about that.
I do not approve. Speaking of not approving, it's worth pointing out that Rhinox mentions to Primal that Prime Spark has the Matrix with it, and it's too powerful for Primal to contain.
But he does, and he goes flying across the room. After he flies across the room, Optimus Primal, like a weird contraption comes from the ceiling and like wraps around G1 Optimus's head.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's an awfully specific. Like,
I was thinking that earlier too. Like,
what if the damage was in his torso or his arm or something? Like it just fits around his head.
yeah, so there just happens to be like a thing that kind of looks like a like dryer hose, basically.
Kind of, yeah. That like comes apart and then reassembles right around his head. And I'm like,
yeah.
what
When
if the damage was
when
on
it
his
assembles,
body?
it basically looks like a dryer hose, like the kind of thing that like blows like all the hot air out of it. And yeah, when I was watching this earlier, I'm like, that is weirdly specific that one, they would just have that contraption lying around, and two, it would happen to be right above the chair of Optimus Prime.
Good
It's
thing.
all I mean,
Can you imagine if it was like 20 feet away? Or they just slinky it all the way across the room over like one of those dryer tubes.
yeah.
When I was a kid, like having if you ever find like some of that stuff, I don't know why, that feels like a very 90s kid thing. Just having like extra of that like weird dryer like hose, right, to shoot out all the hot air.
Yeah.
Putting them on your arms and pretending you're a robot. Like really
Just
the
like
only one who
flopping
did
them
that.
around, yeah.
I'm Megatron now.
Just put one in your right hand. Kneel to my dick laser. Cheers.
You cannot ignore its girth. I definitely did that. Oh, so where are we? Fucking Megatron says Avengers Assemble. Predacons assemble.
Basically. And we find out that Inferno is alive. I mean, he's pretty scorched, but
He's like super fucked and can barely walk. Waspinator pulls himself together.
attention all Predacons. Pull yourselves together.
I don't know how Inferno is like. He was at what's it called when you're at the like epicenter of an explosion? Point zero or ground zero? He was
Ground
at
zero,
ground
yeah,
zero for like that cave blowing up. But then as we see him walking away from it now, the cave's fine. It literally showed that mountain blowing up in the episode where Megatron was trying to trick the Maximals, and now the cave's fine.
You know what? I didn't think of that when I was watching this earlier.
He's coming out of the same cave right
Yeah. Now that you pointed out, it's like so obvious, and I don't know why I didn't think of that, but yeah. Jesus.
Actually, it wasn't that bad. He got better.
He got better.
Fuck. Apparently. Yeah.
Yeah. So so back at the Ark, Rat Trap's like, or Black Arachnia is interfacing with Teletran 1, and I will say I really like the scale difference. Like they definitely like they stick to it.
Because what they're standing on when they're interacting with all this stuff is just like a console.
Yeah.
For like the Autobots to like move. So the buttons are huge. Like the buttons are like the size of them, which is interesting.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, so they're standing on like what is literally just a computer console, but to them it's like the size of like an entire platform because they're so much smaller. They're basically human size, and the Autobots and Decepticons and their technology is like, like 40 feet tall.
Yeah.
Like it's the scale of like life forms that are like 40 feet tall.
I really liked that. Even Rhinox, he is working on some sort of computer with like a monitor, right? But like he's not working on a big console. The whole like big platform in front of him is just like a keyboard. And he's like moving his arms around. I liked that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's cool. So yeah, Black Arachnia is interfacing with Teletran 1, and Rat Trap bitches that it's like taking too long, I guess, and Black Arachnia is like, well, this technology's 4 million years old, motherfucker. And some bickering goes on, and then we hear Optimus Primal like grunting off in the distance.
Yeah, we get a scene like American Werewolf in London where like Optimus Primal is like groaning in pain and his skin is splitting.
Yeah, and like
And
new
like,
bits
his
are like
hands,
popping out.
like literally splitting out from him as in pain. And I'm like, I've seen this before. You see that like horrifying movie, American Werewolf in London, where like his human skin like rips apart and like the wolf comes out of him. That's kind of what this is like.
Good catch. I've never actually seen that film, so it wouldn't surprise me if this is a direct homage to it, though.
Whether it is or isn't, just like the feeling of like him transforming and something inside of him is like breaking his like bones and like his skin, and he's like changing into something like more powerful, reminded me of that.
Yeah.
I think it holds up. I love whenever there's older movies with great practical effects. It I have a bias. I like those a little bit more than if they had if the same movie came out but like 30 years later with CG. Case in point,
I
The
feel
Thing.
like that's kind of like how the majority of people feel.
They better.
God damn it.
That's right.
Um,
Case in point, like the movie The Thing.
yeah, that was actually going to be my example that I was going to bring up.
Yeah.
I do love John Carpenter's The Thing. A lot of
It's
John,
not like the
lot
lot
of John Carpenter films. Big fan of.
it's not like the God, what year was that? What was the prequel? 2011?
Yes.
Wow.
10 years ago. Crazy. All right, Cal's done, everyone. Podcast's over.
It's not
So,
like it was a bad
so
movie.
send us an email at toomuchenergon@outlook.com.
So sorry, back to the Beast Wars. We cut away from the arc to man. Of course, this is happening. All of Tarantulas' like little light bugs that
Yeah.
you see in his caves that do like little menial tasks or whatever. They're all like gathering up his parts. Tarantulas.
Yeah, they're like
All of these like weird little drones.
they're like
that he's
scurrying
built.
along, and one of them knocks the severed dead head of Ravage off a cliff.
Well, you're not putting him back together? Fucking dicks. I'm like, can he come back instead? Please?
Yeah, and the
Oh.
like the snake tail of Quick Strike slithering around like it has a mind of
Oh
its
my-
own.
Looking for Quick Strike's like main body.
Yeah.
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 What else? What other
Rampage
motherfucker?
Rampage is like
Right.
scorched and like indented
Stone?
into a rock.
Yeah,
and,
he's
like-
all black like he's ash
Yeah.
or stone or something.
Yeah. So he like falls out of that, and then
Well,
we cut.
know that Protoformax can't die. So I guess we knew he might have come back.
Yeah, I mean the time storm would have got rid of him, but
We're putting that on hold for now.
speaking of which, back at the Ark, we find out what's happened to Optimus Primal.
Yeah, before that, Rhinox closes like some sort of hatch, and he's like putting repairs on maximum, and I'm like, is that what you were working on? Shouldn't that have been an option to begin with?
Why didn't you lead with that?
Maybe it was a matter of like power going through the arc. It's like
Maybe.
a Star Trek thing. I cannot give her any more power, Captain, and then you need to like reroute power from
From
other
the
parts.
deflector dish.
Well, where else are you gonna reroute
It's
power?
always the Well, it's always the fucking deflector dish. Anything in that show, any problem you need to solve, like it's gonna be solved by doing something with the deflector dish.
But we got a deflector dish incoming now, a steaming hot one,
We
really big.
yeah. So we we see a Optimus has a new body. Optimus Primal, that is, has a new body
Way
yet
different.
again. If you're watching on video, here it is. Oh
Bless you, sir.
God.
It's huge.
This is a very large toy as well.
Yeah,
So,
audio listeners.
yeah.
Christopher is holding up. Oh, what's season 3? Optimus Primal called?
Optimal Optimus.
Optimal Optimus. Um. Anyways, Christopher is holding up. Wow, it looks exactly like the toy. The show. Like, holy shit! Like,
Yeah.
exactly. And it's huge. It's like bigger than his head.
Yeah, it's massive. Yeah, and the Optimal Optimus that I have is the original from 1998.
Oh, the one you have there?
Yeah.
Oh wow, they did a good job. And indeed, even on the show, he's huge. Like really big.
He's like 3 times the size of the rest of the Maximals.
Not an Autobot, right? Like he can't pick up Rat Trap in his hand, but he's fucking huge now. Like bigger than Rampage.
Yeah. And we will see that later on in the episode, just how much he towers over Rampage.
And well, speaking of the Predacons, they just like poke their head in to the bridge in the arc. They just walked back in, and I could have swore Black Arachnia turned on some sort of like security grid earlier in the episode.
Right, she did, yeah.
Maybe
guess
they had to
it's-
reroute power from it. Eh?
Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
not. Because they just walked in.
Yeah, no deflector dish, so we'll just take auxiliary power from the defenses.
Yeah, Megatron's not coming back anyway, right?
Right. Yeah.
So it's just Megatron and I said Predacons, but it's just Megatron and Inferno, and he yells "Open fire," and they do. They're just gonna fuck up the bridge, I guess. Inferno's not looking too hot, and Optimus does some wild, like kung fu stuff that I'm not really sure what happened here. He threw something up in the air and they turned into shields, and he blocked the shots.
So he has these like plates on his arm in robot form, and he threw them in the air and went into quote unquote beast form. Is like optimal gorilla mode. Like it's almost comical to call it a beast mode at this point because the thing is just so absurd looking.
Yeah,
I'm actually not a fan
I'm
of.
following you.
I'm actually not a big fan of Optimal Optimus, but even though I have the toy sitting right beside me,
He transforms into.
so he transforms
Beast mode?
into an optimal gorilla and then grabs the like plates that he threw into the air and uses them as a shield to deflect the incoming Predacon fire.
And then he immediately transforms back into his robot form.
Yeah, he goes back to robot form and tells Megatron. His voice is now modulated, just like the G1 Transformers voices were, which I thought was kind of a cool detail.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
I don't know why I didn't notice that before now.
Yeah, and like we've talked
It
about
is.
on this podcast before that in Beast Wars they didn't do that like digitizing like voice modulating like robotic sounding filter on the voice actors that they did for everyone in G1, but they didn't do that in Beast Wars. But now Optimus has a vocal filter like that, which I think is kind of cool. It's a neat little detail.
So after Optimal Optimus, man, I can't say that 10 times fast, blocks the shots, Black Arachnia turns into a spider and like crawls
Pieces
out
out.
of the ship.
Yeah. She
She's like,
pieces
my work
out.
here is done. I just wanted to survive.
Yeah, basically, and like honestly, like who can blame her?
now's a good time to GTFO.
Yeah. So she stopped the she did her part in stopping Megatron's plan and helping to restore Optimus Prime so she can survive. And now it's like, well, this isn't my, like, I don't want to help Megatron, but this isn't my team. The Maximals aren't my team either, so I better get out of here.
Yeah. Screw you guys. I'm going home.
Yeah. My part is done.
I found this social encounter really weak when Optimus like storms over to Megatron. My first idea when he comes over, my first impression when he comes over, his voice is modulated. I'm like, wow, like Prime is fucking huge, towering over Megatron.
Yeah.
Like huge, like twice as big. I'm like, holy shit, how the turns have tabled my dear Megatron. And what does he say? He says, "Not here.
Outside.
You have to take it outside, mister."
And then Megatron, like, comically, if you ever needed a more on-the-nose reminder that this show is designed to sell toys, Megatron says, "Ah, I see we have a new Optimal Optimus." Like, he literally just says the name of the fucking toy. The one that is sitting right to my left.
And he can see because it's just like a little window. He's like, and carrying Prime's spark as well.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Outside, mister." And what does Megatron say? He says something like, "You won't shoot me in here."
It might upset history. We have 4 million years to clean you off the walls, Megatron. I might risk it. And then there's a interaction between the two of them that I find absolutely hysterical. Megatron is like, "The universe cowered once at the name of Megatron, and it shall do so again." And then Optimus Primal quotes a G1 Optimus Prime line. "Freedom is the right of all sentient beings," which I find so fucking cringy.
It's on point. I don't find that cringy. I find Megatron's reaction.
And then Megatron's response, which is glorious, is like, "Then they better stay out of my way."
Just the way he says it too, like very quickly.
Yeah. Then they better stay out of my
the
way.
right of all sentient beings. Then they better stay out of my way. Like he just says it very quickly with his like hands on his hips. Because he's like, it's weird. Like he's in this opportunity where he's like completely like outmanned and outmatched. He's like looking like, and he's Optimus Prime is now twice as tall as him.
Yeah. So Megatron radios for Waspinator to provide cover fire or something. Waspinator is outside of the Ark, so he shoots off some like stinger bullets and takes out some of the, what are they called, the like cave spikes,
Stalactites.
Stalactites. Yes.
The spiky things hanging from the ceiling.
Hanging from the ceiling of the cave.
Ceiling. Yeah.
Yeah.
The cave top. The cave top.
Yes, the ceiling of the cave. That's what I'm going with. I know it's wrong, but yes. So the top, like, yeah. So spikes come down from the top of the cave and hit the Ark. Makes the Ark shake. Optimal Optimus, like, hilariously, like, if you watch, especially if you go back and watch in slow motion, he does this like hilarious motion where his body, like, he kind of like rumbles, and then his torso like twists, and then he kind of just like falls over onto the rest of the Maximals.
Yeah.
And so Megatron and Inferno transform and then fuck off, and Megatron's basically like, I'll be back, yes.
Yep.
Yeah. And
Says something like, "You'll have the honor of becoming the first fossil."
yeah,
or something.
the
Yeah.
first Cybertronian fossils, yeah.
But then, as they're going, because Optimal Optimus is like, "Oh, our base is undefended." They all leave the Ark to go after the Predacons,
Yeah.
and Optimus Prime is a ship now.
Yeah, he can turn into a jet, apparently.
Much to Megatron's surprise.
He can turn into a jet and flies out, and then he has to go back to robot form to protect his fellow Maximals from like falling rock. So he like shields them with his forearms. Just
His arm shields.
yeah, his arm shields thing, and then he's like, Maximals transform and roll out.
Yeah. Which I'm like, only one of them can roll out.
Yeah. And not only can he turn into a jet, now he can also turn into a gorilla car thing.
It almost reminds me of the what's the Dark Knight? What's the
Oh,
What's
the Tumbler.
Tumblr? Thank you.
You know
I was
what?
like, is it the same website as same as the website name? Yeah, the Tumblr.
Yeah, you know what? I didn't even think of it, but now that you
With
pointed
the
out,
like the wheel in the front.
Yeah, I totally see it. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't unsee it. I'm like, hey, that looks. It's not that it looks like the Tumblr. It's that the Tumblr looks like 1990s Beast Wars.
Technically, yes. I mean, this did come first. This predated the
Confirmed.
Dark Knight by a decade.
We discovered that. Journalism.
Yeah.
Monkey bike.
I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I am a legitimate journalism.
It's true. You have proof behind you. See, you
Yeah.
have a to scale model of optimal Optimus in the back.
Yeah, bought it specifically for the podcast. That reason
So-
and no other.
None. Not because you like it at all.
No,
No.
no. I don't even like this show. I just watch it for this podcast. Cheers. I especially
That's right.
don't like that fool, Optimus Primal. No.
Well, he's gone because we have Optimal Optimus now. Man, that does not roll off the tongue.
We have Gorilla Jet.
Well, we do. So there's a weird scene where, as the Preds are fleeing, they come across Black Arachnia in her robot form with her legs stuck in some rocks.
Right. Oh, yeah, yeah. And, yeah, Megatron's
He's
like,
like, "Look who it
shoo!
Ew. He's like, why did you stop me? And he's like, what did you expect, you metal megalomaniac?
Yeah.
That I would die for your insane ambition? And yeah, she doesn't want to die.
Yeah. Makes sense.
So I'm with her on that one.
But regardless, he's like, well, fuck you, whore.
This has been a long time coming.
And yeah, we don't see what happens on screen, but it's implied that like Megatron blasted her or something. And Silverbolt goes to her aid, and there's this like really like cheesy death scene.
Except that she doesn't fucking die.
Except that she doesn't die.
So like, what's the cheesy death scene about? It's literally a death scene where he's holding her and he's like, hang on, Black Arachnia, you've done good. You're not evil, blah, blah, blah. And she's all like, what's her last word? I don't. She's like, oh, I was only looking after myself. And she's like, I join your side, but as a Predacon, good. I can't join your side as a Maximal, but as a Predacon, goodbye. There we go. I fucking stumbled that out. But when she says goodbye, her eyes go black, and there's like a power down sound.
Yeah, I think she says like, "But for you, I'd try," or something like that. Something
So
like cheesy.
it's this big cheesy like thing, yeah. And I like their relationship on the show, and I'm fine with it. But like after the power down sound effect in her head like lolls to the side,
Silverbolt's like, "Arr!"
yeah, he's like no, and like howls, and I liked that too. It's cheesy, but I like it. But like later in the episode, he's holding her, and she's just kind of like like chilling. So like why do you have like this? Why are you wasting screen time with this death scene? But then she ends up being fine.
Well,
It's
yeah.
one episode.
Well, and Rhinox even says he's like, very touching, but she's just in stasis lock. and Rat Trap's like, oh, will you stop crushing her with your manly torso plate so we can start the repairs? So like she'll be fine.
So they address it right after.
Immediately after.
What's it called when a show addresses its hanging a lantern?
Hanging a
on
lantern,
something?
yeah.
The show immediately is like, oh, all of that was for nothing. And I'm like, then why'd you do it?
Yeah, like I just skipped through the video of that. That whole scene was like,
It's a decent.
it's a good like
length.
minute. It's a good. This scene is like 2 minutes long. Like that.
Yeah,
that is fucking
death
wasted screen time.
That is 1 minute and 55 seconds more of a death scene that doesn't actually have anybody dying than Scorponok and Pterosaur had. Okay, they got 5 seconds of the camera looking at them as their hand like spiraled into lava.
As they comically like flew their terror boards into one another and then fell into lava.
Yeah, like what, 5 seconds?
Yeah.
Fuck.
We're never not gonna be salty about Pterosaur and Scorponok
No,
dying, especially so unceremoniously.
Yeah, I've got eternal salt for that.
But they will live again in War for Cybertron Kingdom.
Yeah.
So we'll
God
see.
damn it.
We'll see how that goes.
I'm excited to see them again. Okay, so where are we at now? There's like a chase scene. It's like Optimal Optimus is like chasing Waspinator.
Yeah,
I guess Cheetor's there too.
Yeah, the flying Predacons are, well, flying Megatron, Waspinator, and Inferno.
Cheetor takes out 2 of them. Takes out Waspinator and Inferno by himself.
Yeah, and Optimal Optimus like knocks Megatron out of the air, and Megatron radios Rampage, and it's like, no,
He smokes the shit out of Megatron.
Yes.
He's like, it's over now, Megatron, as he's falling, and Megatron, I like the line. He's got so much snark in this episode. He's like, is it? As he falls to his doom. I guess the backup plan is, sorry, you were saying the backup plan is Rampage.
Yeah, Rampage and a whole bunch of the aforementioned Tarantulas' like little bug light things. So
oh my god,
so like hundreds of them are like all pulling at the axolon with like cables.
With like little cables. They would not lend any torque whatsoever. They're tiny.
Well, maybe. Well, I'm no physicist, but maybe with that many of them all pulling at the same time, close together.
Sure.
Who knows? Who knows? I
I
don't know.
It's fun to animate. That's the important thing. It's cool to look at. They're helping a little bit. That's
If
We
we have
wanna
any,
feel like they're helping.
if we have any listeners who are physicists, which I fucking doubt.
Do you think a physicist would waste his time trying to prove whether or not something is possible on this show? They'll glance at it and go, "What?
somewhere,
No."
somewhere out there, yes, I do. I do believe so.
Well, there's a lot of like factors, like how big are those machines? How much torque does each one individually have? That kind of it's too hard to calculate, is what I'm saying.
Right. Too
Maybe
hard.
I don't know. Too much physics.
Yeah, there you go.
So Optimal is like what, shooting at he does something cool. He like turns sideways and his like jet wings like cut all the cables.
Yeah. The shot reminded me a little bit of the Tim Burton Batman movie,
Oh,
like the original
Batman
one.
Returns.
No, one of them. I can't remember, but I feel like
Oh, you're thinking of Batman, the first one.
Yeah, with
when he
the
cuts all of the cables to the balloons.
yeah, with the Batwing.
Yeah.
That's kind of what it reminded me of. Who knows if it's actually evocative of that or if that's just where my brain is going, but
Maybe it was just they just wanted to show off their cool animation.
maybe.
So we get to see Optimal stand next to Rampage.
Yeah, this is what I alluded to this earlier, and he's like double
He
Rampage's size.
And Rampage has been the biggest on the show.
Yeah.
So like Optimal is very big. And he just like looks him up and down and goes, "Ooh-ah!"
Yeah. And Optimus just fucking decks him.
I am really enjoying Optimus kicking everyone's ass this episode.
Yeah.
Just like putting Megatron like in his fucking place like multiple times. It's a little satisfying. But Rampage also, you know what's nicer? His robot face. It actually looks like Optimus.
Oh, yeah, Optimal Optimus. Yeah. He looks like an updated version of season 1 Optimus's
Thank
like,
God.
head.
I'm
glad.
Realized people didn't like Transmetal Optimus face.
Yeah, I'm glad they went back to it. And it's so weird too that they changed his entire head sculpt for his Transmetal body because like every version of Megatron like had basically the same
It looked
face.
like him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Always. So like I don't know why
And
they changed it
added
with
a
Optimus.
nose. I had a problem with him having a nose when he didn't before.
Yeah.
But anyways, Optimus looking good now. So what happens here? Rampage tries to shoot him as he's like going down. A missile like gets deflected because he like covers the
Prime's spark, yeah.
Prime's spark.
And the deflected
the missile deflects off of him
and like hits the foundation that the Axelon is resting on, and the ship starts falling. This is actually a pretty fucking dramatic scene.
It's
for me.
super dramatic because as it buckles, comes back down, slams, the canyon that it was going over, the little cliff, falls away, and it's animated really well. The front, the bridge, kind of like does that Titanic thing. where it,
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
starts to crumble and
that's what it made me think of. Yeah, the split of the Titanic. Yeah,
yeah, and then it completely like severs itself and falls off. Where the bridge area, and then
Yeah.
you wonder if the rest of it kind of is gonna balance out, but then it doesn't, and the whole thing just goes kersploosh.
yeah, and like
Optimus is like quivering. His,
Yeah,
lip
yeah.
is like quivering and
no, like
horror.
I wanted to point this out too because like Optimus like yells out no, and like his eyes are like quivering as he yells it. I'm like, wow, like I'm actually seeing like emotion here.
Yeah,
Which is just for a CGI robot in 1998 is kind of insane to me.
Yeah, good, very good job.
Yeah.
With the, I have high hopes for season 3.
And
It's already wacky.
yeah, I got
Cheetor flies in and he gets to see the Axelon die too.
yeah, I got chills when I was watching this earlier. Like it reminded me of how I felt the first time I watched Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock, and the Enterprise blew up at the end.
Yeah, because they are they fucked now, right? Like that's kind of a big deal.
Yeah, and like
I just wonder why Sentinel wasn't left on auto guns.
I don't know, that ship looks like it's in pretty bad shape. Was in pretty bad shape even before.
After and then after it was shot at by Ravage. Yeah, it's gone through some shit recently. Oh, the autocannons were shot and destroyed. I forgot. During Ravage's like attack on them
With the
when
Klingon
shields were
bird of prey,
down.
right?
When the shields were down, like Waspinator or Rampage or somebody shot out the autocannons before they even got any shots off. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so back to the episode, Rampage like cackles. I mean, I guess he single-handedly fucked up the Axelon. He like cackles and then like dives off the cliff into the water, and I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot he's a giant enemy crab. He'll be fine in the water. As far as I know, he's the only
Amphibious.
like terrestrial. Yeah, like he's not an amphibian, but amphibious is the right word. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's the only amphibious transformer on the show.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's probably moves faster underwater in his crab form. For now. Can't wait for a shark, maybe. No?
No, I wish. Like
For
perhaps
listeners.
Perhaps this guy right here, for the audio listeners, I'm holding up a figure of the Beast Wars Cyber Shark toy.
Who's a Maximal.
Who is a Maximal, yeah.
Has pointed out. He looks badass. The design of him is really cool. Beast mode and robot mode.
Yeah.
But he never made it on the show.
No.
Which is why I'm fine bringing him up. Can you imagine though, like a completely like aquatic beast mode being on the show, and it's like, okay, you need internal repairs, beast mode, and Rhinox transforms and everyone transforms, and he just changes it to a shark and just like flops around.
It's just like flopping around on land. And then dies.
That would suck. So goodbye, Axelon.
Yep. We hardly knew you. Actually, that's not true at all. We've spent the past like 40 episodes getting to know you, and you
never got to see the rear entrance much, but
we saw it once in the low road.
Yes, with all the beans growing behind it.
Yeah, all the wild bean vines that led to Energon farts.
Analyzing the show week to week like this helps me memorize the episodes much more clearly.
Yeah.
Because having whole conversations of what happened to that bean patch, by the way?
It probably got cooked by
atmosphere.
by the Planet Buster, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so very sad Optimus and sad Cheetor fly back to the mountain where the Ark is.
Yep. Yeah, because Optimus is like, well, we need to regroup and return our precious cargo to its rightful vessel, as he like swoops his hand over Optimus Prime's spark.
Yeah. And then we hear cackling. Fuck this guy, man. We hear cackling, and the camera shows Cheetor and Optimus flying off, and the camera like comes up close to a now fully assembled Tarantulas.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh man, why won't you die?
Why couldn't you just stay dead?
I think I speak for everybody when I say nobody wants you here.
So back at the Axelon,
Do we even want him here? Does anybody watching want him here?
listeners,
I do.
if you like tarantulas, write
He's a
in and
good
tell us
villain.
about it.
I want him there for that reason, but such a little shit. Anyways, yes, tell us how much you love Tarantulas, please. That one, I want to meet the psychopath who has Tarantulas as their favorite Beast Wars character.
I bet Psycho Mantis loved him.
Oh my god. Yeah, probably they're probably pen pals in a different life.
So back at the
So-
Ark, Optimus Primal returns Prime Spark to the Matrix. He just like
And
takes
he's
the
healed.
he just like takes like the two like busted up like handles that fell on the ground earlier and like puts them back together with the spark of
That's how
Prime.
Legos work, man.
Yeah, that's that's just how it do. So and puts it back into the chest cavity of Optimus Prime, which I'm like, it's a good thing Prime has a like slot in his chest like specifically designed to hold the Matrix. Could you imagine like having one of those like installed in you and you don't end up becoming the Autobot leader? It's like, well, that was all for naught.
It changes you a bit, right? So it automatically gives you a little a handle.
Yeah.
Like when Rodimus
Right,
became,
yeah.
it
Arise,
changes you.
Rodimus Prime. You
don't
got
think
the
there's-
touch.
I think man, I know that's cheesy and his name sucks, but that was such a touching moment.
Oh, it's great.
Love-
I love
loved
it. I
I loved it.
love it. Unapologetically and unironically, like I love
Yeah.
it. I love everything about that Transformers movie.
The bad parts are like funny, and the cheesy parts are great. Like it knows exactly what it just. If you haven't seen it, listeners, there's an '80s Transformers cartoon, and like the production quality of it is just magnificent.
It is leaps and bounds above G1, the G1 cartoon that it was
It's
that it tied into.
and it's canon. So if you give a hoot about anything outside of Beast Wars, and like me, you're not the most knowledgeable Transformers person. Even me, not knowing really much about Transformers, I've loved that movie since I was a teenager when I first watched it. Like me and a bunch of other people in like grade 11 or like 12 or something watched it, and we were like, "Is this amazing?" And we were like, "It is, right? Yeah, this is great."
Was this movie amazing? I think that's exactly what it was.
Yep.
We also do a commentary track for it as well. So after you've gone and watched it, watch it again
It's a live commentary track.
with our live commentary track.
It's
we
basically
even
just us laughing at things and pointing out like weird little little happens, little instances.
we even like give you audio cues so you can sync it up. You can sync up our podcast with the video of it. So go and check that out. It's in the same feed as this show. And if you're watching on YouTube, just look for the audio feed on Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts or Spotify or whatever. Actually, I don't recommend Spotify because then you'll hear ads.
Do ads pop up in the middle of things?
I don't know. I don't.
I'm not sure either.
I don't use Spotify, so. But a lot of people who listen to not only this show, but our other show, Alphanumeric, where we do this but talk about Reboot, another mainframe show from this era. A lot of our listeners on both shows use Spotify.
I listen to them on Spotify. There's an ad when I open the app, and whenever I put it away and like look at it again, but it's a non-audio ad, and
Mm.
it doesn't interrupt the podcasts.
Oh, well, that's good to know.
Yeah. You know what? I think I might watch the animated Transformers movie with our commentary on just to hear us.
Yeah, I'm planning on doing that probably in the near future.
We
We
should do it at the same time.
yeah, there
And
you
then do
go.
commentary over that.
Yeah. Like commentary inception. Yeah. Yeah, so listeners, we recorded that commentary track back just before Christmas of 2020, and at the time of recording now, we're on Earth Day, April 22nd of 2021. So we recorded it a few months ago now.
It was fun.
It was. We should do something like that again sometime.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, jeez. So what's happening on Beast Wars here?
So
Oh,
reality's been restored. We
yeah.
get this little shot of like Optimus Prime briefly waking up, and like him and Optimus Primal make eye contact.
Oh, is
All
that
like,
what's happening there?
yeah, all like up close with one another.
Is that what's happening when his eyes like glow blue?
Yeah, he wakes up briefly.
Oh, like he stirs from his like long-term stasis and his eyes glow before. Oh, what's in his eyes? Like he sees like a galaxy. Like, oh, it's the time distortion storm fading away,
Yeah.
and then he goes back into full stasis.
Yep,
I
reality's
have
been
some
restored.
questions for you. Yeah, reality's been restored. So, how come Optimus, how come Prime just doesn't wake up? You know what? I'm gonna save my philosophical questions until the end. Let's finish the rundown.
Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, reality's been restored, and Rat Trap's like, yeah, we just got to keep it that way for a couple of more million years, which I speculated before that that this is probably more like maybe 250,000 years in the future and not a couple of million years, just because of like the early humans that we've met.
Oh yeah, you said this isn't like a couple million years back. This is like 250,000 ish
Well, and even
years
like the
back.
the timeline within this episode is kind of fucked up too, because Black Arachnia earlier in the episode says, though, this technology is 4 million years old.
I think she meant. Oh wait.
Yeah.
Oh, good catch.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
So even within the episode, like the exact like placement in placement in time is kind of nebulous and inconsistent. But I'm still going with my original assessment that I think that this is probably a couple of 100,000. Right where they are right now in Earth's history is probably like 2 to 250,000 years ago.
yeah, because what did you say? You said that Homo sapien is something like 200,000 years old right now to in our timeline in reality.
Well,
So this early.
not Homo sapiens like us. Like Homo sapiens, they figure have been around, I think, about 40,000 years, like in our current state.
Okay, so modern Homo sapiens are like only four. Oh, really? I had no idea that evolution moved that fast.
And like I figure that these that the ape men that we saw were probably something like Homo erectus, their species Homo erectus. So yeah. So couple 100,000 years ago, not couple million years ago.
Yeah, it says the first Homo sapiens appeared around 200,000 years ago.
Oh, okay. So I was wrong.
Um, I don't know how they study that stuff too, right? Because that still would have been vastly different than modern humans, though, right?
Yeah.
Like anatomically speaking. But from a species, oh, okay, I'm looking at like anthropology graphs now. I'm out of my I'm out of my element here. Oh, and there was a huge biological variation and we crossbred and stuff. Okay, so we things resembling humans started showing up a couple 100,000 years ago.
Yeah. So long story short, like that's kind of my point.
Yeah. So the timeline on Beast Wars.
In my defense, I studied anthropology in university for like a year and a half, over a decade ago now. So I'm kind of just going like random facts, like just by memory.
Closer than most people would probably think. Hey man, some people think like the world is 5,000 years old, but that's a different pod that's a different conversation for a different day.
I mean, see,
So
what you do is you take all of the main, like, patriarchal figures of the Bible, and then you put all of their ages together, and that's how you end up with the beginning of Earth's history, which is roughly 6-ish thousand years ago.
you could be telling the truth, and I
That
have no
no,
idea what you're
that
talking
no,
about.
that's literally how that was figured out. It was it was a monk who did it, like, in the like 6th century.
Then when was the flood? Oh, you know what? I'm not going to get into into that stuff.
So yeah, Optimus is like, yeah, Rat Trap's right. We need to fortify this place because Megatron will be back. So start rounding up all the salvage you can find.
And we get a montage of like them
Powering
re
up.
powering up, repairing the arc, putting little base add-ons outside of the arc.
Yeah.
We see that they've salvaged the bridge, part of the bridge of the Axelon.
Yeah.
So they got the
Which
dinner
Optimus
table
doesn't even
back.
which Optimus doesn't even really fit in anymore, which is kind of funny.
No, he has his own little spot. Well, the roof is gone, so there's that. It's just like the computer area. He has his own like giant terminal, his own workstation.
So here's what I'm wondering about. So we got the nose of the Axelon, over a cliffside, hanging over the edge of a cliffside with like pillars like holding it up, and I'm like, why would you do that? Why wouldn't you just like put it on stable ground?
That's a good point because as we follow the energy, because it's showing that the arc has a giant cable, connecting this like new little bridge outpost,
And
and there's like a
also,
cave system, right?
yeah,
You're right. There are like columns precariously balancing it above a lava stream.
and I'm like, why? Why not just
Was
put
there
it
nowhere
on
else to put that?
stable like solid ground and build around it? Like, why? I don't get it. But also, speaking of that
To
cable,
resemble the Axelon's nose hanging over the cliff.
I guess.
Good point, though.
Uh,
That's dumb.
and also, like, so they're drawing power from the Autobot Arc now. Okay, cool. So the Arc, which left Cybertron because they were so dangerously low on Energon that they were literally dying out as a species. So like them taking off into space and crash landing on planet Energon was like a last ditch effort of survival for them. So it's like, okay, this ship that probably doesn't have a lot of power reserves, we're just going to mooch power from it. Meanwhile, we're all afraid of like upsetting like history and like preserving the timeline.
What if the reason What if the reason the arc didn't power up for that long was because the Maximals mooched energy all along.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
But
really?
but it still seems kind of like precarious to me though. To like, it's like okay, so yeah, we have this ship that's like running on. We have this ship full of like our ancestors that were basically running on fumes. So we're just gonna. But hey, we need power, and like they've got power, so we're just gonna mooch what they have.
What if the Maximals, like the bridge, the power that they need or whatever, because I don't know if you noticed, but there was like a big battery like thing underneath the bridge that they had. So what
Uh,
if it's just like a jump start and they have like a transwarp drive powering it? Like there was a big blue battery thing underneath the dinner
oh
table.
yeah, I see it now. Yeah, it kind of looks like a warp engine.
You see what I mean? So maybe like that big green cable coming out of the arc is just like jumper cables.
Mm. Maybe. Sure. Why not?
I don't know. Okay, so there's some.
Oh,
So why
yeah.
would
So,
Teletran?
s s-
Should we get into it?
just to quickly finish up the episode. So,
Okay.
everything's charged up, and circuits like computer screens and whatnot of the Axelon are all coming back online, and then Optimal Optimus Primal is like, we're moving in, and then episode done, folks.
Uh, okay. So before we give her a rating,
Yeah.
why did Teletran 1 awaken and reassemble all of the Transformers in G1? There was an explosion in the volcano, which kind of like made Teletran go, "Oh shit!" Did it like knock the ship around and like jostle some wires and like connect to the computer system again, or did it go, "Oh shit! I need to go into repair mode"? Like, why did it wait for a million years? Is my question.
Mm.
This is from G1 people, but it relates to what
Yeah,
I'm going
yeah.
to get at
Yeah,
here.
I think the official like reason in canon is that the volcano exploded and that like the impact of that reactivated Teletran 1.
Jostled it awakes
Yeah,
somehow.
yeah, basically. It's kind of nebulous, but
And when it did do that, it didn't view Autobot or Decepticon. It just like looked at the first Transformer Cybertronian it could see and reassembled them.
well, and I called bullshit on that on last week's episode of the podcast, if you recall, when we covered
Why
that
would
original.
Teletran put the Decepticons together first?
Or at
Or
all,
all?
really. But especially
Why?
first.
Like it has to know that those are the bad guys.
Yeah.
And I wonder.
That
Okay, so there,
G1 is dumb, folks. I
maybe
love
maybe I'm thinking
Transformers
too
the
much.
movie, but G1, like the cartoon G1, is dumb.
Maybe I'm overthinking it and I shouldn't be asking questions, and the answer to everything I'm about to ask is just it's dumb. Like it would make sense if it wouldn't fuck up the timeline. It would make sense that they awaken Teletran 1 to repair and awaken to bring out of stasis all of the Autobots. But they can't because they don't want to change the past. I understand that, but like they've used Teletran's like security system. The AI itself isn't awake, but they're just making use of the system, maybe?
Yeah, that's
I'm gonna go with that.
sure.
Because Black Arachnia was like eye beaming and manually controlling everything, but it didn't seem like there were automated systems in place. Oh, that's it. I think I answered my own question. Remember when the turret came down, Black Arachnia had to control it?
Yeah.
Okay, so Teletran 1, the AI of the Ark, is not awake yet. Okay. Yeah.
But she can still interact with it to control the Ark's systems.
Manually.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any bullshit you want to
No.
answer my own question? No?
Yeah, no, I'm,
So Maximal's plan, they're going to chill out for a couple million years
I
and defend the Ark?
I guess. Sure.
Well, they have to take out Megatron and the Predacons then. Like, they have to take the Beast Wars seriously, once and for all. Well, I'm done my picking apart. I answered my own question.
So here,
should we? Go
yeah.
ahead.
So here on Too Much Energon, we have a 3-point rating scale where we rate episodes from not enough Energon to sufficient Energon to too much Energon. It's basically bad, good, great.
Yeah.
It's the simple way of putting it. Cal, what are you giving Optimal Situation?
Man, there's so much to like, but the conflict is resolved in such an unclimactic way. Like, they kick Megatron out by Optimus having stern words with him.
They better stay out of my way.
Fine then. I'll go play with my own toys. I'll ask my dad to buy me even more Transformers than you have. And I'll combine them with my G.I. Joes. Yes. You know what? It's missing beats and it has a weird flow. I think it's getting a sufficient amount of Energon for
Okay.
me.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna go with as well. It's
You too?
yeah, it's a good episode. I feel like it resolves the conflict from the end of last season, which was a 3-parter. I feel like
It resolves it in an
it wraps it up too quickly and in
Yeah.
too neatly. I did like the Ark getting destroyed. I think that's a very
Oh, the Axelon.
not the
That-
Ark, the Axelon. I feel like that's a
Pushes the
very
episode up.
yeah. I feel like that was a very chilling moment, and that's a real game changer for the plot of Beast Wars, I think, and like the story
Yeah.
going forward. But yeah, there's just the episode's kind of missing something for me to make it truly great. Like, it's fine. I enjoyed it. It's good. It's a good episode, but it's
Optimus is super cool.
yeah. I'm actually not a
Just like
as
that
I
he's
mentioned
big.
earlier.
I just like that he's big.
I'm not a fan of the optimal Optimus body.
When the Fusors and the Transmetals came out and Megatron turned into an alien ship, his face was in it. Like, all rules went out the window for me. And I don't give a fuck anymore. You know what? Have them combine. I don't fucking care. Have them turn into a fucking, like, Power Rangers like mech. You know what? Go fucking wild with it. I don't care anymore. So I was just happy when Optimus looked better. Sorry, Optimal Optimus looked better than Transmetal Optimus, and that's all I want anymore.
Yeah. I do like the face that he looks like Optimus Primal again. So
Yeah, but like, since the rules of the first season are out the window, like, why do they even have beast mode? And Optimal Optimus had what, 4 modes?
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
robot,
Quote unquote beast
mode, tank, tumbler mode, and jet mode.
Yeah.
Sure, why not? There's a flight mode and there's a combat mode, so
Knievel mode. I'm never gonna let that one go.
I mean, he did some pretty Knievel shit that episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's our unanimous rating
Yeah.
for this one.
Speaking of Knievel shit, best way to support the show is if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or iTunes, be sure to give us a 5-star rating. Or if you're listening somewhere else and there's some kind of rating system, go ahead and do that thing.
Even likes.
Yeah.
Like on
even
YouTube,
likes. Yeah.
the more likes they get to view ratio, the more likely it's to pop up for somebody that hasn't seen it.
Yeah. And if you're watching this on YouTube, leave a comment, subscribe to our channel. If you're listening to the audio version, go to YouTube, Lasercomb Productions, LAZORCOMB. Leave a comment. If you got something to say, leave a comment. We might read it on air. Or send us an email, toomuchenergon@outlook.com. If you want to follow me, you can do so at Lasercomb on Twitter. Cal, you also have a Twitter account too, I believe.
I do. It is Neo_Cal. It is pretty straightforward and uninspired.
You can also follow the show's Twitter account at Too Much Energon, which I only really just post links to episodes of the show on there, so it's kind of redundant. I might actually get rid of it, but
Well, if that just kind of stays our Transformer Twitter,
yeah.
and
I have
Lasercomb
noticed
is kind of like your personal.
I have noticed a
Yeah.
handful of people have actually discovered this show just because the Too Much Energon Twitter account exists. So, I mean, yeah.
It doesn't need to post like frequently, but if that one stays on topic,
yeah.
do you know what I mean? Instead of just like dank memes and pictures of this sunset or whatever we post, right?
Liking photos of, like sexy Instagram models and whatnot.
There's a funny story behind that, but I need a certain Snidler's permission to go into detail about that. I think it's hilarious.
maybe we'll get into that on one of the outtakes these days.
Maybe.
Speaking of outtakes, if you want to hear those, you heard an ad earlier in this episode for our Patreon that we just set up. So if you want to hear some of those sweet outtakes, that's the place to do it. So patreon.com/lasercomb. We will be back next week with episode 37 of Too Much Energon, where we're talking about the second episode of the 3rd season of Beast Wars, Deep Metal.
Sounds pretty fucking rad.
Sounds like my kind of episode right there. Deep Metal. That has been episode 36 of Too Much Energon. I have been one of your hosts, Christopher Siege.
And I'm your other host, NeoCal.
And until next week, Beast Mode.
Beast Mode. Or Tank Mode. Or Jet Mode.
Flight Mode. Knievel Mode.
Is there a Water Mode? Speedboat Mode? I can't wait for Optimus to turn into a speedboat. It's gonna happen. It's gonna turn into a boat. Motorboat mode.
Bye-bye.